Hey guys, Panda Pat here, and I'm doing this a little late, despite the fact, it just so happens that earlier this week, Black Dahlia Murder actually announced that they were going to be making a comeback with Brian taking over the helm for Trevor Strnad. I guess this also works as perfect timing. So what I thought I'd do today is I would do a tier list album for, Black Dahlia Murder, since they were a huge influence for, not just me me experimenting with, a whole bunch of other, death metal, black metal, melodic death metal, yada yada, all that stuff, but also because they, were a huge influence for my band back in the day when I was in one. So I figured, with that being said, we're gonna do a ranking of all their albums that they've put out, and we're gonna go in order of the year that they were released. And that's it. And we're gonna be starting with their very first one, Unhallowed. Now, honestly, I have to put this at not listened to. This is the only album during the the day after Trevor died, because I was just getting off work when I found out the news. This was the only one that I did not put in rotation. For me, it's also just one that I don't really care to listen to all that much. There wasn't any. I think I heard one song off that album, and I'm like, okay, I can do with that. This is perfectly fine. So we're just gonna put that on the back burner. So next we move on to Miasma, and it's funny I say that because I've been saying that album wrong, or that word wrong. I've always pronounced it as miasma for years, up until I kept seeing the word miasma just get spewed all over the place, and I think that's just because of COVID. Now, this is the album that I actually was introduced to for Black Dahlia Murder, but it wasn't the one that stuck with me. But needless to say, this is a pretty goddamn sweet ass album. And with that being said, I am going to put this at C tier. Now, even though I just said this is a good album and I just put it at C tier, let me make one thing clear. There are no F albums, as you can see prominently on display. There's no albums that that qualify as F. None of these albums are bad by any stretch of the imagination. Black Dahlia Murder has always had consistency with their records. That just goes without saying. It's pretty obvious. Next, Nocturnal. Do I even need to say where this album's going? You should already know. S tier. Like, how could that not go in S tier? Like, that song is consistent banger, 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 banger. And this is actually the one that this is one of two that really cemented my drive into loving Black Dahlia Murder. Just absolute bangers. Like, What a Horrible Night to Have a Curse, Everything Went Black, the self-titled track Nocturnal. How the hell do you go wrong with this album? Its riffs are absolutely astounding. Shannon absolutely killed it with his drumming skills, and then Trevor, obviously, vocal fucking demon, and his lyricism, mwah, chef's kiss, top notch. Next, we move on to DeFlorence. And this one has always stuck with me. Every year after Christmas, my family always goes bowling for like a family Christmas bowling outing. We've done this every single year, and because of the Necropolis music video, I can never go to a bowling alley without hearing that song stuck in my head, or just listening to that song at all. This is also the second album that actually just really further drove its nails into me in absolutely loving Black Dahlia Murder. And this is the first time that I actually really stuck into them. And I have always said, always said, that I Will Return is, without a doubt, the best closing track to an album I've ever heard. One of the greatest. It is an absolute goat to listen to. So, with that being said, I'm going to put this at an A tier. While there's a lot of great tracks for this, I don't see it as a step above Nocturnal and then another album that's going to be coming in a bit later. But absolutely perfect album. Next, we have Ritual. Now, I've always been one of those people that says you either love this album or you hate it. I'm on the fence with that camp. A lot of people say, like, oh, this Ritual is like one of their fucking greatest albums that they ever did, or it's one of the weakest. There's no in between. You're either on the love it side or the hate it side. Honestly, I'm kind of one of those people that puts it in hate. Now, like I said, there's no like bad albums. But I mean, I don't know, like Carbon Ice and Cruciform, and oh my god, I'm blanking on the one track. Moonlight Equilibrium. I love those two tracks, but aside from that, I'm not a consistent fan of this album. So for me, this one's gonna go at C. So sorry if you like that album, but sorry if you love that album, but for me, not exactly great. Next, we move on to Everblack, and this is another extremely divisive one, but this was actually the first Black Dahlia album that I actually bought. The other two, Defloret and Ritual, I had like burned copies back in the day of like Napster, LimeWire, FrostWire, so on and so forth, back in those days. So Everblack was the first one that I bought. Phantom Limb Masturbation, like you know what, let me backtrack for just a second. The first half of this album, absolute crushing bangers. Like, the first half of this album is just crazy good. And then you have Every Rope a Noose, but everything after Phantom Limb Masturbation are absolute bangers. And then you have, like I said, Every Rope a Noose. But the rest of the album falls kind of flat. After that, and I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record at this point. But with that being said, I'm gonna put Everblack at B tier. For me, this is actually really good. I've always enjoyed this album. I really don't see the hate for it. It doesn't really make that much sense to me. Ooh. And next we have Ryan Knight's what was originally Ryan Knight's last album with Black Dahlia Murder, up until the news of Black Dahlia's revival, Abysmal. Jesus Tap Dancing Christ. This album absolutely crushes. Like, they come at you hard and heavy and fast throughout this entire album. And then, as we now know, the song Receipts actually hits a lot harder now that news broke about what happened with Trevor. So that song absolutely hits a lot harder for people, myself included. But this entire album, just consistent banger, absolutely terrific. So, without question, Abysmal is going at S. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. And second to last, we have Nightbringers. So, despite the fact I said that no Black Dahlia Murder album is bad, this is the one I dislike the most. I felt like they played this album way too safe. When members were leaving, aside from Trevor and Brian, they got a whole bunch of replacements, and this album just felt very safe, very by the numbers, and just it didn't hit. I don't know why. I don't see how people really like this album. It makes no sense to me. I just felt like this album is very, very safe, and they didn't really challenge themselves. They just, I felt like they just put the album out just because they were kind of obliged to. So this is going to be the weakest one. I'm putting them at D. This is easily like my least favorite. This is my least favorite album. When I was going through the rotation of their entire discography, when I was the day after Trevor died, this was the one I was looking forward to the least of revisiting, just because it's not my favorite. I don't really like it, and I don't see the hype behind it. It's good, but not great, and I don't understand it. And now we have Verminous, the up until recently final album of Black Dahlia Murder. This was the most recent one, and it sucks that this album came out when it did, because they put it out right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I'm glad I got to see Trevor one last time last year in Chicago for what ended up being his final tour, which that really hurts to say. But I will say, for Trevor's vocal style, something seemed a little off, especially towards the end. It started sounding like he was going for like his vocal sounded a little thrashy, if that makes any sense. Like, I was picking up on like some like I wouldn't necessarily say creator type of vocal style, but maybe Napalm Death is probably the closest thing I can think of. But something seemed off, especially with his highs specifically. His highs didn't sound as good as they should have. But is this a bad album? Are there great songs? Absolutely there are. There absolutely are. And I played this like twice by accident the day this came out on Spotify, and then I would consistently play this because, let's be real, there really wasn't many albums that came out in 2020 that were worth on my radar, and I didn't have Twitter at the time, so my source of where I get music from, that wasn't available at my access yet. But is this a bad album? No. And honestly, I'm gonna put this at a B tier. Verminous is good. Also, before I give like my final conclusions on this, there's a bonus track out right now with Brian doing all the vocals. He does all the vocals. I think the song is like 1.5 minutes long. Go check it out if you haven't done so already and you're skeptical about how Brian's going to sound. And it sounds great. It sounds great. We're in capable hands with Brian doing vocals. The only thing I'm worried about with Brian is his tenacity, meaning like how he does like some of the speed. Like in Necropolis, there's that one section after Brian Knight's solo where he's a little fast. What a horrible night to have a curse. He's pretty fast on that. Trevor had a lot of good speed with his vocal output. He had a lot of great speed. And I don't know how Brian's going to be able to replicate that. Sadly, I think I'm going to be missing the Detroit reunion show that they're having next month. But if anyone wants to prove me wrong, please do so. I just want to know like how Brian is with his speed. But anyway, yes, that is my tier list of my personal rankings of Black Dahlia Murder albums. At S tier, Nocturnal and Abysmal. A tier, Defloor It. B tier, Everblack and Verminous. C tier, Miasma and Ritual. D, Nightbringers. And Unhallowed, I just haven't listened to. I just know the one track, that's about it. But anyway, that's my personal list. What are your personal lists? Comment down below, let me know how wrong I am, or just comment below on letting me know what your list is. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel as well. I always appreciate that. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok. So, otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Later, Gators.